gentlemen, I think we'll get started. Otherwise we'll be here all afternoon. A very cold afternoon, but a very warm welcome to you to Chalk. My name's Christoph Ball, I'm a local historian, and I'm going to be taking you on a guided walk round part of Option C's route. And Option C, ladies and gentlemen, is the biggest direct threat that has been to Chalk Parish since the Vikings. So be no mistake about that. We're not talking about a little tunnel that might be a mild inconvenience. We're talking about utter destruction on almost the same level as we see on our television screens of what's going on in the Middle East. Hopefully not as many deaths. You need, if you haven't already done so, you need to get onto the Highways England, or as one gentleman quite rightly says, the Lieways England website, and fill in the questionnaire, and you need to oppose all options within Option C. Don't say the west one is better than the east one, or the east one is better than the west. They're all disastrous. Now, if you don't fill it in, then they will take no notice of you. Whatever you might think about whether they're going to read it or not is irrelevant. It's a numbers game. The more people fill it in, the more they take notice, especially the politicians, because you all vote, and that's important for them to always be aware of. The Option C that you'll see today is only affecting Chalk, but it is very much something that affects the whole area, especially Higham and Shorne, Cobham, Ludsdown, Mepham, and our brothers and sisters over the river in Thurrock as well. Chalk, and this area right here where we are, is the first area of real green belt. Come down on the train from London, you'll see no green areas other than sports fields until you get to here. This is the front line. If Chalk falls, we will end up having concrete all the way from London right the way down to the Medway towns. Don't be under any ideas that won't happen. It certainly will. So I think probably that's almost all I want to say, except of course health and safety. Health and safety is, as long as you've got decent shoes on and boots, you'll be fine. Take it slowly. I will be going ahead of you, but I will wait every now and again. Also, for those of you who've had enough, there are various ways that you can escape from me. I'll tell you where they are. I don't want you all going home and reaching for your Valium after this experience. I think that's almost, there's two more things I want to say. First of all, this is a free event, but my daughter here has got a bag to collect donations, all of which are going to go to the anti-Option C campaign here in Chalk. So anything you give will pay for posters, t-shirts, banners, publicity of all sorts in order to help us fight this vile proposal. And the final thing I wanted to say is my good friend Les Hills is there. He's the councillor for Chalk in Gravesham Borough Council. Been working very, very hard, going up to see all sorts of people that have crawled out from under stones. You'd be surprised what he has to do. So he's here to support us as well. So without further ado, we'll get started. I will stop you on the other side of the railway line. There are several stiles and there are roads to cross, so bear that in mind as part of your health and safety. And for those of you with dogs, they're absolutely welcome, but do look after them and don't let them bite me. Thank you very much indeed. Down here for many, many years. I always come down here. I find it a wonderful stress buster, beats drinking and smoking. Not that I do either, but even so, I'm sure it does. So this is where it's at, and this is what we don't want being ruined. Just some very brief historical stuff, because I'm not going to do a full-blown version, otherwise we'll be here all day. But the canal, there are only 2 canals in the whole of Kent. One is the Royal Military Canal at New Romney, Appledore, and this is the Thames Medway Canal. It's never a success, taken over by the railways that came through here in 1844 and 1845. And over at the back we can see the National Sea Training School, now used by the Metropolitan Police. Now you will find publications, ladies and gentlemen, that say that that's in Denton. Well, they should buy themselves an atlas before they start saying things like that, because it isn't in Denton, it's in Chalk. In fact, when I read, as I often do, about east of Gravesend and Gravesend marshes, Gravesend hasn't even got any marshes. It's on the river. Chalk's got 4 marshes. Westcourt marshes, Eastcourt marshes, Great Plain marshes and Filborough marshes. So we've got 4, and then you go on into Shorne, which has got a much smaller area of marshland, and then into Higham. So east of Gravesend doesn't mean that at all, it means Chalk, well and truly. I think probably that's all I want to say, because I'm going to take you along the towpath, then we go back across over another couple of stiles onto Filborough marshes, where I'm going to stop you again. Just having a quick look at my notes. Yeah, I think that'll do for now. What I will do though, along this towpath, just before we get into Filborough marshes, I'll stop you again to show you where the route of the tunnel is going to go under the marshes, and where the portal will be for these 2 tunnels. Now for those of you who have seen the airbrush drawings, you've got no idea, I had no idea looking at that, what you're actually looking at. It's not nice and neat and small, it'll be vast, and it will destroy all of the area between Chalk Village and East Chalk. An absolute environmental and cultural disaster. So that's why you've got to fill in your online or paper forms and send them back, because it's the numbers game. Thank you for listening. Right as we're looking at it, on those bushes, into a portal which will be just the other side of Lower Higham Road, which is what you can see stretching along there. And then tunnelled all the way under here, can you imagine that? And then coming out over on the Essex side, where it will destroy their landscape as much as ours. And a point that I wanted to make to you earlier, but I forgot, but Jane here told me quite absolutely right. In this area, it is not just going to be the civil engineering of a tunnel and a road. This area will be developed in a way like Crossways Business Park is at Dartford. Once they do this, you'll have housing, you'll have lorry parks, you'll have warehousing, you'll have flats, you'll have all sorts of other things that are to do with this area being completely developed. And first of all, you'll get it all to do with the construction, and when that's over, then the whole area will be covered in concrete, like I did mention, joining up the Gravesend, Northleet, Dartford conurbation with that of the Medway town. I'm now going to take you out onto Filborough marshes, where we'll stop again. I've got a little bit of culture for you there, not too much, just a bit. So I don't try your patience too much. The bridges you might be interested to know, the one that we went across and this one, are swing bridges. They were all part of the original canal. If you look down there, you'll see mechanism at one stage, the bridge could be forward like that, so that the canal boats could go up and down. Originally it linked the Medway at Screw with Gravesend, but after the 1930s you could only go down as far as Higham, and the main thing that was shipped in the 1930s was in fact manure, which was brought down from Gravesend, where they had plenty of horses, to be used on the rhubarb in Higham. And as I always like to say, manure is really good for rhubarb, but I always prefer custard on mine. Oh, and when you come over here, if you look behind you, you'll see why we have marshes. They're there to soak up water. If it's covered in concrete, where is that water going to go? course they can't help it because we've got bottlenecks there and we what we don't want to do. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, do come a bit closer unless you don't want to hear what I've got to say, in which case stay away. Yes, I do. I'm never rude. Oh, lovely. Yes, that's what we want. Thank you very much.
Going in the lake.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, well, you've heard about all the building and the tunnels and the roads and all the infrastructure, but let's just think about how wonderful this landscape is. It's a cold day, it's a windy day, but even on such a day, it's still got a great magic. It's a place that's been incredibly important in my life and to many, many others. And I hope those of you who have come today and don't go on these walks very often will come more often and enjoy this. But before we go on to that, I wanted to just put a little bit of culture in. I want to read you a short extract from Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. And right in chapter 1, this is how it's described, this area that we're standing in. Ours was the marsh country, down by the river, within as the river wound 20 miles of the sea. My first, most vivid and broad impression of the identity of things seems to me to have been gained on a memorable raw afternoon towards evening. At such a time I found out for certain that this bleak place, overgrown with nettles, was the churchyard, and that Philip Pirrip, late of this parish, and also Georgiana, wife of the above, were dead and buried, and that Alexander, Bartholomew, Abraham, Tobias and Roger, infant children of the aforesaid, were also dead and buried, and that the dark, flat wilderness beyond the churchyard, intersected with dykes and mounds and gates, with scattered cattle feeding on it, was the marshes, and that on the low leaden line beyond was the river, and that the distant savage lair from which the wind was rushing was the sea, and that the small bundle of shivers, growing afraid of it all and beginning to cry, Pip. And then he goes on to meet Matchman. "Hold your noise!" cried a terrible voice, but we're not going to go on. So I'm going to take you down to the end of Filborough Marshes, which is where we are, in the Parish of Chalk. Not Gravesend, or Denton, or Shorne. Chalk. When we get there, this is your first escape route. For those of you who can't stand any more, you can go along Lower Thames Road, and within a few minutes you'll be back to where your cars are. But for those of you who are the righteous and those who wish to go to the great heavenly gateway of liberation, hallelujah, follow me. Absolutely. So if you'd like to come this way, ladies and gentlemen. Comes over from Shone, or it comes down from Thong, because they're the two wings that they're talking about. They won't build both of them, but it doesn't matter which one they build, it'll be total destruction. It will mean another road running more or less where we're standing, with a great big roundabout just about where that dip is. Huge, great roundabout sort of thing that you see on the Crossways Business Park, with lorries hurtling past at great speed, spreading grit all over the place and exhaust. So, you know, I'm painting a vision of hell, because if that goes ahead, that's what it will be. So all of you who have come this afternoon, you're not going to go home and be confused about what you've heard and what you've seen. This is the landscape, this is where it's going to be. Not over there or over there, right here. And again, you can see the marshes all flooded over there on East Court marshes, as they should be at this time of year. That's what they're there for. Now at this stage, ladies and gentlemen, we come to where you all have a choice. We can either continue the walk, whereby we continue up here up to Thong Lane, opposite Riverview Park, and go home via Thong Lane, or you can go this way down along Muggins Lane here, it's the name of this footpath, and go down to the corner of Thong Lane. So what I need to do is have a vote from you by putting your hands up. Who wishes to go up to Thong Lane? Who wishes to go down Muggins Lane?
Right.
I fear Muggins Lane has it, so that's what we'll do. What I'll do is I'll stop you all at the very, very end, mainly to say goodbye, to remind you about filling it in online, because if you don't fill it in online, or fill in a paper form, if you don't send them what you want to happen, then they're not going to take any notice of you. You're a bit stupid coming here this afternoon, you've wasted your time. You need to do that if we need some practical outcome from it. And also to make sure that those of you who aren't local know where your cars are, so I can show you how to get back. Thank you to those two people who are going to go along Muggins Lane that way back to Shorne. Thank you very much for coming.
Well, mate.
Right. Place in heaven is assured, and I might see you next week at Grim Gravesend in Shorne Village Hall. Okay, all right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go this way then. That's your vote.